Alien Headbutt has recently ended, and honestly it feels like such a shame because it really was such a fun manga to read every week. It wasn't perfect, but with only 16 chapters to its name, it still managed to create a genuinely promising protagonist, some amazing character designs, and really fun action sequences that hinted at something much bigger for the series. And look, I'm not going to endlessly glaze the manga because it definitely had some pacing issues early on, but man, I really feel like if the Japanese audience had given it more of a chance, this could have grown into a really fun new staple for Shonen Jump. So just for the people that don't know, the general premise is that the main character, Oga Shirokiba, comes from this small island called Mukurojima, and his dream is to become a pro wrestler. He tells his family that he won't come back until he achieves that dream, but literally within the first chapter, he succeeds and returns home, only to discover that aliens have completely taken over the island. It's a simple premise, sure, but as someone who already loves alien media, that setup was more than enough to hook me up immediately. What I really liked about Oga as a protagonist was his absolute dedication to his family. After his father died, he was fully willing to give up his dream of wrestling and become a fisherman just to help support his family. Even when we see flashbacks to him as a kid, instead of the kind of posters you normally expect from a young boy, his room is covered with half-naked wrestler posters, which I thought was pretty funny. From the beginning, he's presented as a family-first character, and that becomes the emotional core driving the narrative as he searches for his family across the island. But at the same time, the series also follows this completely different side of him once he steps into wrestler mode. There's this almost villain-like switch in the way he carries himself and the brutal tactics he uses during fights. He'll wrap chains around his opponents, smash an alien's head with another alien's head, or straight up use a flagpole to impale a larger enemy. The dude's approach to wrestling feels less like professionally sanctioned wrestling and more like full-on WWE chaos. And it makes him incredibly fun to watch. Even with how little time the series had, Oga still ended up feeling like a genuinely cool and memorable protagonist. Honestly, one of the manga's biggest strengths with his character designs, and I don't think I could talk about them without us going over the fights as well. Right from the beginning, the first alien we're introduced to is this long-legged creature that instantly blows the head off the guy standing next to Oga, who was also returning home. It's such a violent introduction because it immediately establishes two things: these aliens are insanely fast, and they have absolutely zero hesitation when it comes to killing humans. I just like how the alien looks super cool. It has this insect-like design where the long legs visually communicate that it's fast. Is it the most groundbreaking design? No, but it's still memorable, and this isn't even one of my favorite alien designs in the series. The fight itself also gets a great job at introducing Oga's fighting style. The alien immediately rushes him, he throws a punch and then a knee, and then Oga just tanks the hit before delivering a counterattack of his own. Then the aliens slam Oga's head directly into the ground, and the impact genuinely feels painful through the page. Oga gets absolutely destroyed at first and is bleeding out on the ground, but then he remembers how brutally his mentor used to train him and reminds him that all of this is for the sake of his family, so he gets back up and absolutely clotheslines the alien before wiping the blood across his face and straight up telling it that he's going to murder it. He gets behind the alien and uses go to hell suplex, taking advantage of his own weight to snap its neck. That entire sequence is so badass because it actually used wrestling techniques creatively instead of just having the character who's a wrestler in name only. And throughout the manga, we keep seeing that idea evolve. At one point, he literally uses another alien's body as a weapon, and later on, he even pulls off a camel clutch. The series constantly found fun ways to incorporate wrestling into combat. The next major alien we see is this giant predator-looking monster that's revealed to be feeding on the corpse of the first alien. I actually love this moment because it immediately tells us that the aliens aren't one united species working together. Some of them actively prey on each other, which creates this really chaotic ecosystem that I thought was fun and would have been very interesting to see explored further. What's cool about this fight is that Oga quickly realizes his normal wrestling techniques aren't going to work. He can't grapple this thing, he can't throw it, and he can't overpower it just because of how massive this alien is, so instead he adapts. He baits the alien into charging at him at full speed, using the momentum of the movement to flip it over and impale it. And afterwards, we get this amazing visual of Oga raising his fist like he just won a wrestling match. That's another thing I really appreciate about the series. Oga actually had to adjust his strategy depending on the type of alien he was fighting. Later on, we get to even see this pterodactyl-like aliens that Oga can barely fight against directly, forcing him to rely on his ally to shoot them out of the sky. It creates this cool dynamic where Oga can't just brute force everything himself. And then once one of them crashes to the ground, Oga immediately powerbombs it, creating this sick combo attack with his teammate. Then we get the evolved boss version of those pterodactyl aliens, and honestly this entire sequence was hilarious and awesome at the same time. Oga weakens it by smashing another alien's head into it, and literally yells Alien Headbutt, so I'm glad we got the name drop before the series end. What I found really interesting was the moment where the aliens started begging for help. Oga interprets this as a creature mocking all the humans that begged for mercy earlier, but honestly, I'm not completely convinced that was happening. It felt like the manga was potentially hinting that some of the aliens may have been controlled or forced into their actions. I don't know, but I thought that could have been interesting to see later on. But regardless, seeing Oga finally defeat the creature and rip the parasite out of its body is still one of my favorite panels in the entire manga. And after all that, we finally get introduced to the larger villain group, who immediately look cool as hell. There's the spiky alien, the horse-like alien, the cloaked figure, and the final humanoid-looking leader. They all instantly have this intimidating presence, especially with the fact that they're all casually smoking cigarettes. And the smoking thing is honestly hilarious because one of the first things these aliens did after arriving on Earth was apparently become addicted to nicotine. We even get this insanely cool panel of Oga smoking while talking to them. Even beyond the aliens we got to see, you could tell that Akira Inoue had a ton of ideas planned for this world. The manga starts teasing animal-based alien mutations and all kinds of bizarre creature concepts that genuinely felt like they could have carried a much longer series. It really felt like the foundation for a 200 plus chapter battle manga was there, even if we got to only see a fraction of those ideas. I'm also glad that Inoue at least got the chance to give Oga a final form before the series ended, and the coolest part about it is that his ability basically lets him create an artificial wrestling arena with the ropes and stuff. It's such a cool concept. At the same time though, you can definitely tell the ending had to rush through a lot of things because of the circumstances surrounding the cancellation. And while I really enjoyed the story and loved the alien designs, I'll admit the sidecast was probably the weakest aspect of the manga, but it's hard not to wonder how much stronger they could have become if the series had simply been given more time. I also know some readers felt the beginning of the manga meandered a little too much and that the pacing was somewhat repetitive early on, but personally I still had a lot of fun just watching Oga beat the hell out of these aliens while slowly progressing towards finding his family. Either way, it just feels like we barely got any time with Alien Headbutt at all, and it sucks knowing the series was constantly near the bottom of the weekly Shonen Jump rankings. Still, despite how short-lived it was, I genuinely enjoyed the manga, and I honestly felt bad seeing the author apologize for its short length. Really hope Alien Headbutt eventually gets English physical releases because I'd absolutely buy them, and more than anything, I hope Shonen Jump gives Akira Inoue another opportunity someday because the guy clearly has some really creative ideas. But yeah, what did you guys think about Alien Headbutt? Do you think it deserved to get axed, or do you think it had potential? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.